name came up, and it's been 10 years now. We are thrilled, Governor, to have you join us. If you all would please give a warm welcome to Texas Governor Rick Perry. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim, thank you. How did 10 years get by? And then as I look around the audience and I see Senator Frazier, and I ask, how did 45 years get by? Almost 50. And it has been a wonderful ride, and it's been an extraordinary 14 years or close to it, and 30 years of working in this city with Jim. You mentioned Hector Gutierrez, and one of the first people who came to an event here in 1984 as a young legislator and incoming member of the Texas legislature, and to have been engaged with so many people in this room. And Jan, that I know is one of the things that you found in your public service, is that not only is it your philosophy and your engagement with legislators and the men and women that you've had the opportunity to appoint, it's really been those people that you had those personal relationships with that's been able to allow you to be a very successful governor. And Jan is one of those individuals, not unlike Bobby Jindal, Rick Scott, Nikki Haley, that make me really nervous. And I say that in the sense of this is a governor who has implemented and instituted policies that have made her state be substantially more competitive. I think when you came into office, Jan, that you had a $3 billion budget shortfall, deficit.
The largest in the country.
The largest deficit in the country. And was that in 2008, thereabouts, 2009, somewhere in there? I know you ran for election in 2010, but the fact is, it is those governors working with their legislatures, implementing policies that make their states more competitive, and I love competition. Whether it's our athletic teams that play each other, and or whether it's states competing against each other, I love to travel around the country and talk about the competition that goes on between the states. Jerry Brown loves to see me coming out in California, and so he can have something to talk about. And I heard some rumors that New York Governor Cuomo had put together a really long list of things that I could do to myself if I'm in the Empire State again anytime soon. But in all seriousness, these states competing against each other are at the real center of the economic catalyst in this country today. It's certainly not these one-size-fits-all policies that come out of Washington, D.C., whether it's dealing with health care or education policies. It's in the states where you see the real innovation. It's states like Arizona that economically, we're in a competition for a number of projects, and it's governors like Jan putting tax and regulatory and legal policies into place that make their state more competitive, that make Troy and myself and our colleagues come together and look at our tax policy, our regulatory policies. And that's good for America. And Jan reflects that competition. She understands that for Arizona to be a better place for the citizens, that they must be more competitive. And whether we're competing for some of these businesses that are moving out of high tax, high regulatory states. That, I suggest, is the real model for this country, as we get back to our founding fathers' true vision of what this country was to look like. The 10th Amendment to our Constitution that said that the federal government is supposed to do a few things and do those few things really well, but then everything else would be left to the states or the individuals. And governors who really understand that, and I give credit where credit's due. If you watched TV last night on no telling which channels, but you saw an ad for the New York. And they talked about tax policies that they were putting into place. And I tell you, that's good. I give my kudos to Governor Cuomo for doing that. But here's what I do know. You would not have been seeing those ads if Rick Scott and Bobby Jindal and Jan Brewer and Rick Perry had not been going to New York and saying, why don't y'all take a look at our state and look at our tax policy, look at our regulatory policy, look at our beautiful weather. Particularly, Jan goes up there in January and talks to the people in New York about Phoenix or Tucson. But that's what makes our country great. And this is a governor who understands competition. And today, her state, that $3 billion deficit is now an $800 million surplus. That's what you can do. Today, her state is ranked #1 in the country for entrepreneurs. That's the Kauffman Index. And Chief Executive Magazine now ranks Arizona as one of the top 10 states in the nation to do business. The governor who has brought that renaissance to Arizona, Jan Brewer.
Thank you, Governor Perry. I just want to thank you. It's just a great honor to be here in your beautiful capital, and an extra special privilege, if you let me say so, to have you come. I know you're busy, and come and introduce me. He's fabulous. He sets the model for the whole country, and he's all over everywhere working it. So we do like competition. I'm here though in Austin. and I brought you a copy of a letter, Governor, to the President of the United States. I don't know if you read it yet or not, but I thought I'd have this opportunity. I would hand deliver it.
You did good.
Hand deliver it. I need to talk to you about this situation.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Governor.
Jan refers to this as the new catch and release program. Catch them in Texas and release them in Arizona, right?
He said that, not me, right? Well, listen, thank you again, Governor, for that great introduction. And let me begin by saying that as a conservative governor, I am so proud to join you in the Capitol here in Austin, and in Texas. And of course, we all know one of the most Republican states in our probably the most Republican state in our country. Although I do understand that Austin isn't exactly the reddest region of the Lone Star State. But again, it's great to be in here. I see red everywhere in here, so that really counts. And I'm really especially thankful for the invitation to be the first female speaker at this wonderful event. But most of us know, and that of course I know, really I want you to know how pleased I am to be here in Texas, and because I think Texas and Arizona has so much in common when it comes to doing business. We know what attracts companies and allows existing ones to thrive. From major companies like Apple to small family businesses, Arizona and Texas has figured out the formula for economic development. And as a result, we consistently rank among the top states in the nation for our pro-business environments. And of course, Texas is a lot bigger than Arizona, and you have resources that we can't claim, like oil and seaports and lots of land. But I truly believe and I think that our two states operate with similar philosophies. And it's clear to me that other states, that certainly the federal government would be wise to study and emulate Texas and Arizona's practices. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not holding my breath for the current White House to come around. But more often than not, this administration's approach has been to stifle the free market, not to foster it. But as Texas and Arizona attracts businesses, jobs, and populations from around the country, I'm guessing that other states will follow our strategy. And it's not complicated. The path to prosperity requires quality and plentiful jobs. The path to quality and plentiful jobs requires an environment that allows businesses to succeed. The way to create that environment is to have low and fair taxes, a ready workforce, and a government that gets out of the way and lets the free enterprise system do what it does best, create jobs. Like I said, it isn't complicated. This doesn't mean it is easy to get there, especially if the political culture is centered on the notion that government knows best how to run the economy, and that industry must be distrusted, overregulated, and taxed heavily to pay for central government-driven programs. That certainly does not describe Texas, which has weathered the Great Recession much better than most states. But you should have seen what I inherited when I became governor. That's when Arizona former governor, oh, you might have remembered her or heard of her, Janet Napolitano. She flew off to Washington and became the cabinet secretary to President Obama. And she left Arizona with a state budget that was $3 billion in the red out of a $10 billion budget, with grossly inflated revenue projections and a litany of taxes and regulatory policies that were unfriendly to business. It was the worst state deficit in the country. And I sometimes add, it was worse than California's, and you know how bad California was. Well, per capita, Arizona was worse. And I always say, boy, wasn't that a great goodbye gift from her? It's kind of like showing up late at the party and the waiter hands you the bill. So it was clear from my first day in office what we had to do, although we knew that getting there was not going to be easy or comfortable or immediate. But I often say that doing the right thing almost always means doing the hard thing. We immediately recognized that we needed to do more than just manage the short-term bleeding. We also needed to implement monumental reforms to turn the ship around. We followed the guidance of my political hero, Ronald Reagan, in making Arizona more competitive for job-creating businesses. My first official act as governor in 2009 was to issue a directive to the state agencies calling for a freeze on all new state government regulations. The day I took my oath, find it. Then, with a series of historic reforms, we lowered corporate taxes. We lowered business personal property taxes. We lowered corporate property taxes. And we lowered capital gain taxes. And we kept it up. Since then, we've simplified the sales taxes. And just this year, as one of my legislative priorities, we eliminated the tax manufacturers pay on power when they use to make their products. We combined and eliminated state agencies, and we set up the Government Transformation Office to use private industry practices to improve, to modernize, and to streamline government offices. Our goal was not only to reduce government, although that certainly was a goal, but to also make it more efficient and to cut the red tape. With this and other significant reforms, Arizona has changed the culture of government to be more like businesses, and that means being efficient, effective, responsive, and constantly improving. And it's working. We not only eliminated our deficit, we created a surplus that includes a nearly $500 million rainy day fund, CEOs have rated Arizona amongst the nation's best for businesses, and that includes Forbes magazine naming us #1 for new job creation. We've recruited several iconic international businesses as Apple, GM, State Farm. And we did so because we listened to what they want and need to be successful, and our policies and reforms reflect just that. Still, it's stunning to see how different Arizona's model for economic recovery has been from the path chosen by the Obama administration. Where they've chosen more regulation, we've chosen more deregulation. Where they've spent, we've saved. Where they've handcuffed the private industry, we've unleashed the free market. Our reforms have been accomplished through basic, Reagan conservative free market principles of competition, choice, public-private partnerships, and limited government relationships. I know you all understand these concepts in Texas because you've been following them for years, and it shows in your economy. In fact, both of our states have been fishing for business with some success in California, which seems to have an economic philosophy strikingly similar to that of our federal government. It's almost as if anybody in DC that they have never ever even thought about business or run a business, ever had to make a payroll or balance the books. My guess is that all of you in this room understand that this is pretty easy and uncomplicated. Some of you probably discovered it like I did, the hard way. You might know, especially if you read my book, Scorpions for Breakfast, that I learned about business and about responsibility from the most important mentor in my life, my mother, Edna Drinkwine. You see, I know what it's like to be a single mom, struggling to make ends meet while caring for your family. I saw my mother face those challenges after my father died when I was 11 years old. She had never worked outside of the home, but my mother knew that she had to support her family. That would be my brother and myself. And with very meager savings, she bought a small dress shop, and I worked side by side with her until she sold it when I was 20 years old. And that dress shop was a classroom for me. It's where I learned the importance of hard work, responsibility, honesty, integrity, and yes, courage, from my mother's example. It's people like my mother who make America strong and prosperous. People who take responsibility upon themselves when the going gets tough. It's those kinds of people who are going to start a business, create jobs, and give America the best economy in the world. If, and a big if our friends in Washington would give them a chance. In addition to a shared respect and understanding of the free enterprise, there is one other thing our states have in common: the biggest border with Mexico. Many people around the country only hear about Arizona in the context of our immigration policies, and I make no apologies for those. It's my practice, it's my job to protect our citizens. And when the Border Patrol agents and family ranchers are being killed by people sneaking across the border because the federal government refuses to do its job, well, I'm simply not going to sit and do nothing. But I also see Mexico as a good friend and an important trading partner. In fact, later this year, Governor Sonora and I have a joint business building trip to Israel. Arizona is constantly pursuing ways to expand our trade relationships with Mexico, and that includes more and better cross-border transportation. We have improved 2 of our ports of entry, but we still don't have the kind of access or routes and partnerships that Texas enjoys. We're working hard to improve that as we continue every day to make Arizona one of the best places in the country to do business. I believe that what Arizona has accomplished the past 6 years has been chiseled into our culture, and I'm counting on that. As you may know, this is my last year in office, and I'm confident that we have set our state on a path for long-lasting economic opportunity and prosperity. I know Texas is on a similar path. Now, we just need to persuade DC to catch up. I want to thank each and every one of you again for your very gracious Texas hospitality and for welcoming me here to your beautiful state. And I just wish each and every one of you all the success in the world. It's truly been an honor to be here, and certainly a privilege and an honor to have your governor of the great state of Texas join us. Thank you all very much.
Governor Brewer, thank you too for coming and for your hard work, and for Governor Perry coming out. We never want to have our guests leave empty-handed, but in particular for your good work, a gift from the Austin Economic Club with appreciation and thanks for your tireless efforts on behalf of our nation. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Well, in interest of time and the governor's schedule, and appreciate your patience, I would just once again thank our sponsors, Greater Texas Water, Hint Scarborough, Data Foundry, Q2, and all of you for coming out. I also should recognize we had former Secretary of State Phil Wilson now running the Lower Colorado River Authority. Phil Wilson, thanks for coming. All of you, appreciate your time today. Go out and have a good day.